Hi folks, we're going to tie a very simple fly tonight, but don't underestimate how good this is. This is a wee fly called a cormorant. There's loads of different variations of it. I'll show you one tonight. So for this here I'm using, you can use loads of different hooks, it doesn't really matter, but that's short shank special, or you can use a short shank B160. It's a barbed hook, of course. So the first material I'm going to use here is Glow Bright floss, and I'm going to put plenty of wax on it, because whenever you're tying with floss it can get a little bit stringy. Also, if you are tying with floss, I tend to use a slightly different bobbin than you would see in my normal videos. So try and get a bobbin that has a plastic insert in it, or a ceramic one. Some of the pre-threading ones and the steel ones can damage the floss. So a millimetre back from the eye, come down the body approximately halfway, and you can see there I just touched the hook point, but it won't matter. Trim this off. Now you can overlay this with pearl, but I'm using this is a pearl PBM 34, and you can see it's got a green sheen to it. This is, I think it's a hen's material. Downside for this little fly is it's quite narrow. I would prefer a wider one, but I don't have it. So just tie this in, and I'm just keeping an eye on my floss. If it gets too wound up, I have to counterwind it to flatten it. So I've got a reasonably flat body there, and then I'm going to actually tie this thread off. It only needs like a double whip finish, and you can see the extra wax building up there. And then I'm going to introduce onto the head of the fly some fine black. This is an old spool of Danville's, I think. Just make a small little head and come up onto the last of the Glow Bright. So with any Glow Bright material, and you're putting slippery pearl out over the top, a little tiny spot of super glue, and get your dubbing needle. Make sure it's the whole way up the body. Right. I'll try and get this as best I can. So I'm putting the first couple of turns there onto the hook shank, and that gets me started to come up the body. So we have to miss the hook point with this, or it'll just cut it. And I'm doing approximately slightly overlapping turns. Don't be worried that you think that the fluorescent material is getting covered. It is still going to do its job. So I'm going to tie that off at the front if I can get it. A couple of turns, all you need. And then I just make sure it's all potted down, because it will pick up any super glue in there. So the wing material, the traditional one was done with just black marabou. Then there's a trend now to use bits of zonker strip, but I'm actually using ostrich marabou. Of course, it wouldn't be one of my flies if it wasn't a bit different. So this ostrich marabou does exactly the same thing. but I find it a little bit harder wearing. So we want about 10 or 15 of these. Just pluck them out. And just set them on. You want these to come about 2 to 3 mil behind the bend. And actually just tie them straight on. So pinch and loop right on the top, and then with your fine scissors cut these waist sections off. And then I'm going to tie down the butt sections. Now here's where you can get creative. You can put, don't waste jungle cock on these, but you can put, you know, goose biots, you can put a little bit of fluorescent orange or something on the side of them. A lot of that's unnecessary. This is micro crystal hair, or crystal flash rather. So for these sort of small little delicate flies, I like the fine. Again, I first got this stuff to tie bonefish flies, but it's doing well with these. So just a couple of turns on the top, and I'm just then going to hold these in a V format. So as I come up the head, that's them either side, and then I can do a whip finish to hide the tying in. And then obviously retain this longer section for your next fly, but I like to just bring them to the side and cut them. Again, you could put a wee fluorescent head on the front. There's as many different variations of this, but this little simple one works well. A little bit of varnish on the front. So just to finish, I'm going to just keep the fly at that angle. I'm going to turn out my lamps, and I'm just going to hit this with a UV pen, so you can see all the UV materials still showing through the pearl. And that just makes a little bit of a different fly. Very, very simple. I hope you enjoyed that.